Hello and welcome to First Language English Class 9. Hope all of you have learnt a very good lesson for Mauritius in the last class, isn't it? Very interesting topic, and we have seen about R.K. Lakshman, who is telling all his experience how he travelled to Mauritius, and we saw a wonderful experience, isn't it? So, today we are going to learn about a different land. Hope everybody can understand what I am talking about. Yes, it's about Africa by David Diop.
It is important to remember that geography is more than just the location of cities or important landforms. Geography is about how humans interact with the land in which they live. When we understand the landforms of a region and how that land has helped shape the decisions, culture, and economies of the people, we can develop a far better understanding of their history. Africa is the richest continent in the world in terms of natural resources, animal, and plant life. It is a land of variety and was home to some of the earliest civilizations. The northeast region of Africa is where the ancient Egyptians called home. With dry, desert conditions, life revolved around Africa's largest river, the Nile. The Nile flows north from the waters of Lake Victoria in the jungles of Tanzania and empties out into the Mediterranean Sea. Just before it flows into the Mediterranean Sea, it forms a large triangular delta that provides water to farms all over the region. Without much rain in Egypt, farming depended on the annual flooding of the Nile. The floodwaters saturated the banks to provide good farmland for the year. It's not a coincidence that one of the ancient Egyptians' most important gods was the god of the Nile. Much of North Africa shares a similar climate to Egypt, dry, desert-like conditions with little rain. There is a small strip of land in North Africa that has a Mediterranean climate and is good for agriculture. But just underneath this lies the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert. It stretches from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Red Sea in the east, and was a natural barrier to transportation in the ancient world. Sub-Saharan Africa is very different from the north. Around the equator and the western coasts lie the jungles and rainforests of the Congo River Basin. The jungles are very hot and humid, but are also very wet. The denseness of the area prevented substantial cities and settlements from forming other than on the coast. These jungles are also home to unique animal life. To the east of the jungles lie the highlands of Africa. These mountains are located on the Horn of Africa that juts out into the Indian Ocean. This range is the largest continuous mountain range in the continent. The elevation means the climate can be considered cooler than the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. There are flatter plateaus along the coast that help tie this region to the Middle East and India through trade. South of the highlands are the plains and savannas that make Africa famous. These are large areas of grasslands that are home to a lot of African wildlife and have a temperate climate with wet summers and dry winters. This region is also home to the tallest mountain in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, a dormant volcano that rises over 19,000 feet above sea level. This mountain and the area around it are considered a natural wonder. The southern region of Africa is also varied within itself. The coastal regions are relatively low-lying and smooth, but the interior can be hilly and rises in elevation to an interior plateau with some northern mountain ranges. There is good land for agriculture, and the southern tip of Africa, known as the Cape of Good Hope, offered respite for ships and sailors on the journey around the continent. Also off the southern coast of Africa is a natural wonder known as Table Mountain. It is a large, flat-topped mountain that attracts a lot of tourism today.
Now, quickly let us move to the next step, what we are going to do. So, can you identify these personalities? Any idea? What do you think they are known for? The first person here is, yes, you guessed correct. He is Abraham Lincoln. The second person is, yes, Nelson Mandela. What are they known for? Any idea? Yes, children, they fought for slavery and racial discrimination. Yes. What is racial discrimination? Racial discrimination is fight for the color. Something, race is connected to the color of the skin. Are you fighting for the color of the skin? If your friend is dark in color complexion, are you fighting for that? You are making fun of them, you are criticizing them. You are not supposed to criticize them. It is a very big offense. We are going to learn more about this land. Yes, we are going to learn about Africa. So, before going to the topic, let us see who wrote this. Can you identify? Yes, he is David Diop, David Mandsacy Diop. So, let us see about him. David Mandsacy Diop, born 1927, he lived up to 1960, was a revolutionary African poet born in France to parents of Western African descent. So, he was born to African parents actually, but they have settled in France. He lived in France through his childhood and visited Africa only in 1950s. So, he did not go to Africa at all. He was born in France. And how did he come to know about Africa? It's his motherland. Let us see, it's very interesting. His poems highlighted the problems of Africa, brought about a colonialism and gave a message to Africans to bring about change and freedom. So, he fought, he really gave, he inspired the people through his words, through his writings. He inspired the African people that let them take it as a challenge and come out and fight for the freedom. So, let us see how and all he is inspiring the youngsters. He is known for his involvement in negritude movement in France. So, not only in Africa, in France itself he started his movement, a movement started by black writers. So, fighting is, whenever you think of fight, you think of only sword and you are thinking only about the weapons in our hand, but the best weapon is pen. Through writing also you can fight. Okay? So, he used this method to fight for freedom, that is writing method. He wrote very inspiring thoughts to others, like a movement started by black writers and artists protesting against French colonialism and its effects on African culture and values. So, I was telling you, how did he come to know about Africa, isn't it? It's very interesting. He had not been to Africa at all when he was a child. He was born in France, but how did he come to know about Africa? Let us see. His views and feelings were published in Presence Africaine and in his book of poems. So, you can see his thoughts and views, how he felt the African people suffered. That is in the poems of Coupe de Pilon, which was published in 1956. Diop died at the age of 33 in a plane crash. So, very sad part to hear. He did not live for many years. Maybe if he lived for a long years, he would have done more achievement regarding this. But unfortunately, we Africans lost him in the age of 33 itself in a plane crash. So, before we could go to the poem, let us read the poem. Africa, my Africa, Africa of proud warriors in ancestral savannas. Africa of whom my grandmother sings on the banks of the distant river. I have never known you, but your blood flows in my veins. Your beautiful black blood that irrigates the fields, the blood of your sweat, the sweat of your work, the work of your slavery, the slavery of your children. Africa, tell me Africa, is this you, this back that is bent, this back that breaks under the weight of humiliation, this back trembling with red scars, and saying yes to whip under the midday sun. But a grave voice answers me, impetuous son, that tree young and strong, that tree there in splendid loneliness amidst white and faded flowers. That is Africa, your Africa, that grows again patiently, obstinately, and its fruit gradually acquires the bitter taste of liberty. So beautiful lines he is given us. So before we could go to the understanding of the poem, let us first see the glossary and understand few meanings from this poem. What is this? A grand meal? Yes, something there, different dishes there, isn't it, children? So you have here, the meal was simply splendid. So what is the meaning? Splendid means glorious, grand, magnificent, isn't it? So here I have brought you a different variety of dish. So food is very grand food, isn't it? It is not a simple food. There is not only one dish for you here. There is a variety of dish for you. So you call this as the meal was simply splendid. So next, impetuous, acting quickly and without thinking. So in the past, impetuous, you see some students are very hasty in taking decision. They don't even think what is the future, what will become the future, what will be the effect in the future. So young men especially take impetuous action. What they do? They take impetuous action, impetuous decision. Impetuous young men would drop out of college and run off to join the army. They don't know what will be the effect. Immediately what they do, they don't even think of the future. They drop out from the college and they move to the next step. So maybe they run off and they join the army. It's one example. So impetuous is nothing but acting quickly and without thinking. Next, humiliation. Humiliation is insult and maybe domination also. Somebody insulting you, somebody dominates you. It's the meaning of humiliation. Obstinately. Obstinately is stubbornly. We don't listen to parents somebody. Some students what they do? They are very stubborn and they want to take haste decision and they doesn't want to listen to the parents. He obstinately refused to consider the future. He is not at all ready to listen to the parent. He is he is giving more importance only to his decision and haste, and he is very stubborn in his thought. He is not ready to listen to anybody. That is called obstinately or stubbornly. Yes, now let's move to the summary. Yes, what do you see? Who are these creatures? What do you get in the mind? Yes, let's see. He shows his concern. Now in Africa, who shows? David Diop. What he's trying to do is, he shows his concern and patriotism towards his nation. he continues to say that he never knew anything of his nation. Why means he was not born in Africa, he was born in France. He did not know anything about his nation. Only through his grandmother's songs he came to know about his land. His grandmother was often singing the songs and tales. She was telling all the tales of Africa, about his motherland to him through her songs. Listening to the songs, he learnt more about his motherland. And it was very inspiring to him. He wanted to do something for his motherland. So what he did? It means his forefathers also lived in Africa struggling for freedom. He shows his love and also feeling how the Europeans used the Africans as slaves and unpaid the workers. What happened? His forefathers were being sent to work in the field. They were given lot of work. They were all slaves under the Europeans. Who was dominating them here? The Europeans. The Europeans, what they did? They tried to keep them under the control. They gave them a cruel action. They were struggling for freedom. But he shows his love here. How? He is also feeling very sad for his forefathers. How hard they worked in the fields, and they were not even paid for whatever work they did. They were working hard for a long time and they were unpaid. All this really made him to feel more about his land. David Diop feels the torture of the Europeans to the African people. So, how the Europeans tortured them for each and everything. They were just giving them a torture, a mental torture, a physical torture for them to work in the fields, to work in the factories, to work whatever the Europeans say, the African people were supposed to listen. This was a great effect on the Europeans. This was a great effect on the Africans, which the poet here could not tolerate. He is very beautifully telling here the torture of he feels for the torture of the Europeans to the African people. The poet applies the word humiliation. What is humiliation? I told you it is an insult, it is domination. Here the poet is telling the humiliation, the word humiliation, he tells this word here which carries a vast meaning. Which one? Humiliation carries a vast meaning of insult and domination. So, he tries to motivate the people here. How he tries to motivate the people? To which people? African people. Dawn and sunset. So, what is dawn? Every day the morning comes and every day the sun sets. So, we should not take it easy. It is like they have lost their originality. The people of African have forgotten their originality itself. It's very bad. Who should come forward? He is asking the youth to come forward. He is telling, he motivates the people to join hands and fight for the freedom from the clutches of the Europeans. So, if you expect somebody they themselves could happen, it will not happen. Nothing will happen. So, what he is trying to tell? He is trying to motivate the people, join your hands. One person alone cannot succeed anything. So, he is telling to fight for the freedom. How? To join hands, to get rid of the Europeans, to come out from the clutches of the Europeans. So, he says, we can't wait for something to happen automatically. So, we are supposed to take an initiative. Somebody should take an initiative like Abraham Lincoln and like Nelson Mandela. Good. They have taken a great initiative to start to come out of the clutches from the Europeans. So, we are supposed to take an initiative and also ask to be curious and well planned to get freedom. Only then we can achieve, isn't it, children? For that, what we have to do? If we wait for the right day and time, we cannot be waiting for the time will come. Time will come, they have come automatically and they will leave the country automatically. That is not possible. What we have to do? We have to take an initiative and move forward. Only then we can achieve success and freedom. So, nothing can happen automatically. We cannot wait for the right day and time. We have to step into the action immediately. So, he also says, once we decide to struggle for the sake of the country, we have to face the barriers and hurdles, and only then we can taste the fruit. So, without hard work, can we achieve success? Not at all. So, barrier is what? Hurdles are what? The problems we are facing in our daily life. Only then, once we come out of certain hurdles and barrier, once we cross it, we can really achieve success. If not, it is very difficult. That is what he is telling. He also says, once we decide to struggle for the sake of the country, we have to face the barriers and hurdles, and only then we can taste the fruit. If not, it is very difficult. Beautiful lines. Ironically, he is telling, it is a figure of speech implied here. He is telling the white faded flowers described to whom here? The Europeans. Only then we can achieve and we can push them out. That is the lines telling here. So, he is telling only when the youngsters, whom should come? Old people, they can't. So, who should come forward? Yes, youngsters. Only when the youngsters come forward to fight for the nation, surely the country will be free. So, I hope you all understood very well about Africa, the lines of David Diop. It was really quite interesting, isn't it? It was really interesting, gave us everybody a boost, like how we should fight for the freedom. Anywhere and everywhere, being children, where somewhere something is happening wrong, we are supposed to come forward and fight for it. We have to not fight for the wrong thing, we have to fight for the good thing. So, only when we can fight, when unity is there, when you all join together, join your hands, and we all of us work hard together, we can, in oneness when we work, we will really achieve success. So, that is the point in Africa. David Diop very beautifully he tells us. Okay. So, let us move to the poetic device in this poem. So, the poet here uses figure of speech. He is using personification here. How? First of all, let us see what is personification. Personification is when you give an animal or object qualities or abilities that only human can have. Person is a human. So, you give anybody or a non-living thing, or sometimes an animal is not a person, it is an animal. When you give them the qualities of human, it is called as personification. It is used to bring non-human things to life. Like here he is telling, your beautiful black blood that irrigates the field. So, black blood will irrigate the field? No. So, he is giving here, he is beautifully telling that your beautiful black blood that irrigates the field. He is telling the whole Africa, whole the black community itself, he is telling here that irrigates the field. Alliteration. He is also bringing alliteration here, the figure of speech alliteration in the poem. Alliteration is nothing but the repetition of the same sounds at beginning of words. How? He is telling, example here, your beautiful black blood. Can you see B is, the sound B is being repeated here 3 times, thrice, isn't it? Your beautiful black blood, the first letter, the sound of the first letter B is being repetitively given here thrice. One more sentence here, back that is bent. So, here back is repeated twice, B is repeated twice, back that is bent. back that breaks. Again be is repeated here, back that breaks. The next figure of speech is metaphor. A word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. Now, metaphor is nothing but, in a simile you compare two different objects, but metaphor does not like comparison. It automatically, it appears to be, it is directly applied. A word or a phrase is applied to an object. You say here action to which it is not literally applicable. Now, you can see some example here. Impetuous son, you are not telling like impetuous son, you are telling impetuous son, that true, young and strong. When you apply like here, it becomes a simile. That grows, again patiently, obstinately. Like in case if it is used, that grows like or as, it grows again as patiently. If it as comes or like comes, it will become a comparison. So, here the poet is not comparing, he is applying it directly to the object itself, that grows again patiently, obstinately. So, next is which is new to you, you have not learnt this, it is oxymoron, in which two opposite ideas are joined to create an effect. The common oxymoron phrases is a combination of an adjective preceded by a noun with contrasting meaning. Example, kind cruelty. This is very beautiful figure of speech here. You have both opposites here, good and bad in a sentence, ups and down in a sentence, kind and cruel in a sentence. Very beautifully given here, kind and cruelty. In a same sentence you get the opposite meaning also. So, here he is given here in splendid loneliness. He is given in splendid loneliness. So, that is about oxymoron. Bitter taste of liberty. This is one more example. So, this is all about today's session. We will see about the home assignment. Find the words or phrases in the poem that are used to describe the beauty and strength of Africa, to depict the humiliation suffered by the Africans. So, this is all about today's poem. So, try to complete this home assignment. It is a very small assignment which you each and everybody can complete it. So, you need to complete the home assignment and record it properly. When you are resuming back to school, you can show to your teachers. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this poem. Yes, thank you.